Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Big Home Ed Conversations. I'm Kelly Rigg. I'm a home ed mum of two, founder of Off-Roading Motherhood, and a qualified mindset coach. I'm passionate about supporting parents and neurodivergent families as they navigate the transition from mainstream schooling to home education. And I'm here together with my co-host, Ashley Venerio. She's a fellow home ed mum of three and a former primary teacher. We created the Big Home Ed Conversations podcast with what began as really honest, heartfelt talks around the coffee table. And it's now grown into a space where hundreds of listeners now tune in for real, unfiltered conversations about mindset, behavior challenges, educational philosophies, and the emotional journey of alternative education. So we cut through the noise and we focus on what's really mattering to home educating families right now, offering clarity, confidence, and hopefully some community in every episode. We have decided this summer to shift our gratitude towards basically an incredible sponsored opportunity from OutSchool. They reached out to us a little while ago and asked us to review their online platform. So basically a space that hosts classes by vetted teachers from around the world, offering online lessons, self-paced courses and tutoring. So whatever your kid is into, trust me, whatever they're into, you are almost guaranteed to find what you're looking for. And if you as a home educator make some really great resources or have a subject that you're really, really talented at, maybe it's worth taking a look as well to see if you can actually make their platform your latest side hustle. So I know that Ashley has gotten really stuck in actually, and her girls have been enjoying quite a lot of classes on there.
Yeah, this summer we tried a few courses. It just worked out because we were bouncing all over the place, visiting family, and definitely I did not bring any schooling with us. We just wanted to enjoy, but it did give us an opportunity to kind of say, oh, we could take a quick class here and there. And as I was signing up, I quickly realized that it made sense for us to actually sign up for their membership just to save a bit of money. There are a few membership tiers that OutSchool has. So go in and take a look. If you want to take a few classes, or maybe if you have a few kids, take a look at their different tiers, see which one might suit you based on that criteria, because credits can be used across siblings and you can actually roll the unused credits month to month. So I'm using our credit pool to book classes for all three of my kids. And I originally thought that I would just be doing this for the summer as just a way to kind of plug in some learning here and there. But we found some great courses that I think we might continue with into the school year. One of them being this French summer camp that my older two are doing, and they're really enjoying it. So now I think that when that ends, I might actually look to see what courses this teacher has into the school year, because we've really just enjoyed her style and communication and the way she gets the students talking to each other and practicing. So yeah, I think we're finding that we're gonna keep going with some of these, which is good.
Yeah. I think what's really nice as well is just, again, how unique some of them are, like your horse medicine ones and stuff that they sound like they're going to do, and like stable management and stuff like that. It's just really fascinating. Like if they've got such
Yeah.
random subjects that they're interested in, it just gives you a chance to kind of really delve into something fascinating from someone who knows a lot about it. It saves you having to obviously try and find, I mean, we're always finding people to inspire our kids, right? Like places to go and things to do.
Exactly.
But to bring it into your home with an online class is just so handy, and it helps to really kind of plug that gap a bit without you having to come up with it all by yourself.
And
Just
don't
must
be
be really
afraid
nice.
to reach out to the teachers, because that course that you're talking about actually wasn't offered at a time that suited us, because it's an American teacher and we're obviously on British time. And it would have been at like 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, which would not have worked for us. And so I just said, hey, I've got two girls, probably could grab one or two more, but I'll reach out to my friendship base here and just see if anyone's interested. But would it be possible to offer it at a different time? Because that just is too late for us. But it's so on point with what my girls are into right now. And she was so more than willing to do it, which was fabulous. Like she really emailed back and forth with me through the OutSchool platform just to say what time would this work? And we were going back and forth on dates. And then we signed up, which was great. So yeah, don't be shy to ask for a different time if it doesn't work for you.
Such a great way to connect with really passionate people, isn't it? So if you guys obviously want to try OutSchool, as this is a sort of partnership with them over the summer, we have got a $35 discount code off your family's first month. So if you go to outschool.com/home ed, the home ed bit is all in capitals. And then you pop in the code HOMEED35, which is also all in capitals. then essentially you will get $35 off your first month. So hopefully that is helpful for you guys. Enjoy. Moving on to our subject for today. So we wanted to talk to you guys about the kind of the roadblocks, the stuff that tends to get in our way when we're kind of deciding to home educate, maybe in those early years of home education when we're trying to kind of get our feet underneath us. Obviously, I'm currently doing my Get the Head Straight to Home Ed series as my kind of like solo episodes through the summer. And essentially, I wanted to kind of just have a lovely kind of proper chat with Ashley, do one of our proper episodes around this as well, in a more kind of casual way, and just talk about some of the roadblocks that we came up against. Because obviously, we meet people every day who are just starting out home educating their kids. They come and join a group we go to, or we chat to them on Instagram or whatever. And so many of you have reached out recently to tell us that the podcast has really helped you to get your head in the right space, to kind of know that you can do this, that you feel confident, that you're going to be able to go on to be a great home educator and that everything's going to be all right, which is such really, really lovely feedback and genuinely warms my heart to hear that. So if that is you and you listen, then please do tell me, because it always makes us feel like the hours and hours and hours we put into making this podcast happen every week is worth it. Because obviously at the moment, it doesn't pay us, does it, Ashley? We're here to do it because we love to do it. One day we'll reach a point where we manage to feel like we're rolling in it too. That's the goal, right? But no, I'm joking. But we're definitely here to serve you and to offer you the support that you need. So everybody who reaches out to us and tells us that they love it and that it's made a difference for them really makes a difference to us too. It makes us remember why we do this, because it was really tricky back at the start. And I think it still is sometimes, even today. Like, you find moments of doubt, like maybe when you see someone's kids who are a bit older, maybe doing these really amazing things, or my kids are both neurodivergent, which means they really struggle to access group settings, which I often look at people and find myself going, oh, I really worry they're not kind of learning to learn as a group, or they're not able to participate very easily in those environments. And will that mean they'll struggle if they say they want to go on to university later or something? And then I get all of my head and I have to kind of really sit there and work out why I'm feeling like this and what's the actual issue here. And is it okay for them to not access education that way? Well, of course it is. There's Open University, there's online courses, there's a multitude of different ways to access qualifications and opportunities in their future that totally will serve them in however capacity they can access that education, and that things don't have to look a certain way to be successful. But I know that when we first started out, we had quite a lot of things kind of almost getting in the way in terms of my headspace and feeling like I knew kind of what I wanted for the sort of near future, how I wanted home ed to look. My partner was a little bit uncertain. He's gradually learning to trust my instincts. I think home ed was actually a really great turning point for us in our relationship, in helping him to understand that I do have strong instincts about things, but that quite often they work out really well. And sometimes they seem completely nuts. So I understand why he had his trepidations. And obviously most of us do. Like, I Googled all the same things that we all have. Is this actually legal? Are we actually allowed to home educate our kids? Like, is this not just for kids who are like excluded from school or terminally ill, or something else is going on? Like, is this actually a thing that everybody randomly can do? Like, oh, that's crazy. And so I had to ask all those questions too back in those early stages. And I think having the faith that there are roadblocks, but most of them are things that we can fix or work our way around or reassure ourselves or learn to work with, that actually those might actually be values. They might be really important to you and you need to keep them, and they're still going to be there, but you learn to work with them. So I thought we'd just chat about that today and talk about some of the stuff that came up for us in those early months and kind of in the early years, to be honest, because I mean, I'm sort of 4 or 5 years in now. And I don't get an awful lot of roadblocks anymore. I'm pretty good at reflecting and noticing when something feels like it's big and stuck in my way, that actually I know that there are definitely ways I can work my way around it. But it didn't feel that way in the early years. And I don't know if you found that too, Ashley. Did you think that there were some bits that just felt like a really big hurdle?
I think it's so hard, and I was saying this earlier, to look back, because now we've been doing it so long and the hurdles have changed, right? Like every year there's something else, whether it's preparing them for specific exam, if that's what you're interested in, or feeling like they're entering the next tier of learning. So they're going from like elementary school to middle school, or, have we done what we need to do, that sort of thing. But or maybe it's external, state requirements, or like in England, what might be changing for those of us here. So those things. But if I try to go back to the initial hurdle, I think I quickly found out in Italy, which is where we were at the time when my daughter would need to be registered as home educating, that it was legal and it wasn't a big deal. And in fact, some of the towns in Italy can make it feel like a big deal, but ours was like, okay, cool, like no problem. So I think that I was fortunate in that case. And once I found out that that was easily done, that piece was fine. And I was like, okay, this is going to be fine. So I think the hurdle initially for me, aside from my husband thinking it was maybe weird and like, why would anyone do that? Because he's Italian, raised in Italy, and there's very few homeschoolers in Italy. It's legal, but it's just not common. And so compared to the US, I think he was just sort of like, wait, what? Like, why do you want our kids to be weird? And so there was that piece. But the external piece felt more important because, like, of the legal issues you were saying. Like, we're not trying to break any laws here. So, like, if we can just understand how to do this properly,
Yeah.
and show that we're kind of working with the city and whatever that looks like, then that was okay. So I think that once that got sorted, I felt much more confident in the decision because I wasn't doing anything wrong, I
Yes.
guess, and I feel very confident that I can figure things out. I'm not unable to do so. So I think I felt pretty confident that, especially, I mean, it's first grade. I had taught first grade.
Hmm.
It felt fine.
Yeah.
But I quickly then found out that homeschool looked very different, which is the point, obviously. But it does look very different than
Does.
what I did in a school setting. So yeah, so I think the biggest hurdle for me, I guess there were two, right? The external piece, and then of course just the added complication of doing all this in a language that's not your native language and that you never had formal training in and speak very mediocre. So there was that fun bit. I think people just assume if you can't speak the language that you're not intelligent. And that
Hmm.
that is such a humbling situation to be in. I do recommend it for everyone to experience at least once in their life. You will stop judging people that can't speak your language properly, I promise you. So there was that. But so yeah, I think the external bit and then the component of just like my personal relationship with my husband and deciding how our kids were going to be raised. And a lot of that, I think he had to defer to me a lot, which I know was probably very hard for him because I try to think about myself in that situation. And if my husband was pushing for something that I was very unsure of, I think I would have a really hard time letting that go and like losing that battle.
Hmm.
But he personally, I think I can say this without, spilling beans or something. He personally did not like school. He
Hmm.
was not a good student in the early years, I would say. And he was very young in his grade, like the youngest you can be, essentially. And I think that probably played a part in that. So I think ultimately I was like, hey, you want our kids to go to school, but you didn't even like school. Like
Hmm.
oh, but the people, okay, well, they'll still see people. Oh, okay, well, so it was kind of like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that conversation. But I do feel like I was so passionate about it because I ultimately felt that the unknown of home education was better than the unknown of other people parenting and disciplining my children.
Hmm.
It wasn't necessarily about the education, although that certainly does come into play, but it was largely about the communication style and the way that some teachers are going to be reprimanding your children and doling out punishments and making them believe things about who they are and their ability to do things
Yeah.
that isn't appropriate
Hmm.
in my mind. And I knowing my children, for some kids, it's probably fine and that's fine. But for me, knowing my children, I just could tell you that one of them in particular would have been absolutely crushed
Hmm.
by that
Yeah.
process. It's one of the things where it's luck of the draw. You just don't know what teacher you get.
Yeah.
And in Italy, you get a teacher for the elementary years for all 5 years. And
Hmm.
I saw the kids, my friends that had kids older than us, I saw them have a horrible teacher and just the constant battle and I
Yeah.
couldn't. So
I think the
that
struggle,
ultimately, yeah,
I think the struggle with that as well is that if you are having challenges with a teacher and you're not happy about stuff that's happening inside the school walls, then quite often that then becomes a whole other fun kettle of fish to be trying to navigate, right? Like
exactly.
you're just trying to
Yeah,
advocate for your child, you're then having to argue with the teacher. You really don't believe in certain things. You're probably also going to be countering some of the teachings that are happening in school at home because you're going to be kind of going, no, that's okay. You're allowed to stand up for yourself. You don't have to just put up with
exactly.
that. And like, so then you're putting them in a difficult position. And actually, some people believe that this stuff builds resilience. I really don't believe that it does. It's a whole other conversation, really. But the
It's
concept of,
proven that it doesn't, by the way.
yeah, it really,
Proven that
really
it doesn't.
doesn't. It's just trauma at the end of the day, isn't it? It's just unpleasant. And I think that ultimately having that oversight, and I think this is sometimes I have been referred to as a helicopter parent as well in the past, which is delightful. And just like having some level of oversight in our kids' education, in the styles that they're being spoken to, in their relationships with their peers, and actually being able to support them and coach them through tricky situations instead of kind of them coming home from school, you have absolutely no idea what they've gone through that day, and then just trying to support them the best you can with as little information as you can get and with as little influence as you can have. Like there's actually not an awful lot of influence you can then have over the school and how they are delivering something to them either. So you're kind of then just a bit stuck. And I guess, yeah, we are constantly learning and flexing and adapting and observing and changing at home. And I know that that wouldn't really be possible in a more formal environment.
Well, you're so right, because I was listening to this radio show when I first moved here, and they had some teachers on, and they were talking about, gosh, I wish I remembered what this was. It was while I was unpacking. So, just on in the background as I was getting settled in our new home. And I was just really interested in it. Obviously, they were talking about teachers, talking about the English school system. I know nothing about it. So the one of the teachers was saying about how these parents are complaining about the books that are being read in the school. And they were saying how they're like, well, gosh, if you want to complain, you got to send your kids to private school. Like, we're doing what we're doing, and this is public school. We're doing it. We choose. The government has their input, but this is it. And if you want to argue with us, nothing's going to happen. We don't have to change a thing, and we're not going to. If you want that right to be able to influence what your children are being taught or what books they're reading or being able to kind of like share that, you got to go to private school. You can't do it in public school. And it's so funny because I think Americans are just used to the ability to come and, have a conversation with the teacher. And I'm not saying change is going to happen, but at least understanding where each other is coming from in a situation, especially if it's like a bullying situation or, your kid has a special need or they're just a certain type of personality. And, hey, if my kid doesn't turn their homework in and you go at them in front of 30 kids, they're going to shut down. And all you're going to do is make them hate themselves even more. Like, I promise, if my kid didn't do their homework, they're feeling real bad about it anyway. Some teachers are really open to that feedback, right?
Yeah.
Other kids, like when you just embarrass a kid in front of another kid, the whole class, like that's just it's not cool for me. And my kids would not respond to that well. So I think that's the thing. And here, if you were being told, hey, if you want to have a conversation with us about something, it's not going to happen in a public school. We don't get paid enough and we, whatever, we're not going to do it. That's hard because not everyone can afford to send their kids to a private school. And I'm sure the private school teachers have the same
Still going to be
conversation.
very much limitations, isn't there? And
Yeah.
I think, when I talk about this kind of conversation as well, it makes me think that actually one of the biggest things I love about home education is that in a way it's like there's an element of protest to it, where we are actually saying, do you know what, I'm not happy with the way the school system is being run. I'm not cool with the agenda. I'm not keen on the curriculum. I'm not keen on the learning styles. I'm not keen on the way that it's being done. And so actually I am going to do it differently, and I'm going to pull my children out of your schools, and you're therefore not going to be able to give the funding to those schools, and you're whatever, right? And I think that there's an element of protest to choosing to home educate, that if you have got children in school who are not doing well and you take your children out, you are telling the government in a very sure, firm way that you are not satisfied with what they are receiving, and that actually not many things other than essentially what is in a sense a kind of a strike, I guess,
Yeah.
helps people to really realize that actually people aren't happy. And obviously we as parents shout loudly about our feelings all the time. And you see a lot of Bridget Phillipson's posts on the Department of Education online. It makes me laugh so much. Every single time they post, it gets absolutely trolled by parents who are unhappy with the school system, trolled like mad. They don't respond to anyone though, and they just carry on with their propaganda as if nothing's happened. I don't know why they don't just turn the comments off. Honestly, it's hilarious.
It's so funny.
But it's pointless for them. Like, I don't even know why they're posting it, because it's actually making it worse. Like, it's so funny. But I think that the more we stand up to this and the more we say, no, we're not happy, like, get out of our lives. Yeah. Stop telling us what to do. Stop telling our kids what to do. We don't want it. It's not helping them to thrive. Like, we're not interested. Then the more it will change. They'll have to, because they won't be able to carry on as they are.
Well, and I think you're touching on another aspect that could be a barrier to home education, a barrier for people who aren't there yet, is this right here, right? So this maybe feeling like you have to be a part of that movement, a part of that protest.
Yes.
Feels like some people don't want that. Like, don't get me wrong, I've been there too. And there are plenty of times when I think until recently where I've been like, listen, I'm just here to homeschool. Yeah. Like, I don't want, so I'm telling anyone out there listening, you don't have to. You can just home educate your kids.
You can.
And you can let everyone else have their own conversations 100%. Like, in Italy, I didn't feel any of that. I literally was doing my own thing. I was not making waves. The teachers that evaluated my kids every year loved my kids. I got nothing but amazing feedback about how awesome they were. I always tell the story about the first year when my daughter went. She was in first grade and they did her evaluation at the end of the year. And the feedback was, maybe she should learn how to write her last name. And I said, oh gosh, yes, it is true. We don't do that because she's the only one.
Yeah, she doesn't need to write it on there all the time.
Write her last name.
I wrote out my daughter's full name for her the other day, and we call her a shortened version of her first name and have done since birth. So it's like, I probably can count on one hand how many times we've actually used her actual
I didn't actually know she had a full, I thought that was her full name. That's hilarious.
Yeah, she actually has another name. So this is how bad it is. And I wrote it out fully for her just so she could see it and copy it and be like, that is your actual name. And she was like, no, it's not. And she literally refused to write it. She wrote the shortened version instead. And I'm just like, oh no, I ruined it. Like, the name I chose, I loved so much. And I was like, why have we never used it? This is so sad. So it's literally just going to sit there on her birth certificate and never be seen again. It's so funny. Yeah. I think it's little moments like that. You do have those moments. We talked about that briefly last week, didn't we? That kind of like, oh, actually, we haven't covered that at all. Maybe we should. That's really important. Funny. But yeah, no, I agree. When I first started, I actually promised myself that I was not going to become political. I wasn't going to get involved with all of that. I was going to stay neutral, that I was just doing it for us and our little family. And I just wanted to enjoy it. And I'd never been interested in politics. I've never been interested in fighting for diplomacy or our rights or anything at all. And I know that's terrible and people probably hate me for that too. But I've just never I've never really understood why it really mattered. I've never really understood what the point is, because it always felt really pointless to actually try and fight back against things that the government were doing. But actually, I think the confidence has built in me, and I think that's actually a really amazing kind of side effect of it over time, is that it's built a lot of confidence in me to stand up for what I believe in and what I think is important to us and our family. And it's made me braver. It's made me feel like I can actually affect change. I can actually make a difference. And I guess in part that's why we're here doing this podcast too, because we know that it does make a difference to speak about our experiences and to demonstrate our feelings into the wider world, because then more people can think, actually, do you know what? I feel like this too, but I've been squishing and squashing it and putting it to one side, just thinking that I'm just being like, because I think that sensation of like, oh, I want to pull my kids out of school, they're not happy, they're being bullied, or their teacher's awful, or they actually don't seem like they're progressing at all. And I'm really worried actually, because I haven't seen them get better at their reading in like a year, like a solid year. Like, it's not getting any better. They seem to hate it. They never want to do it. And why do they hate it so much? Like, reading's fun, like books are great, like they're just like stories in your head. Like, I don't know why they hate them so much, or whatever you might be sat there worrying about or thinking about. And actually, those instincts, those things that are screaming at you to do something differently, and then that other part of you is going, well, no, but this is normal, like they'll catch up, or but I've got to work, or there's other things in the way, or I can't afford it, or like it's just going to teach them that they can just give up on stuff if I pull them out of school and do it differently or whatever. Like all of these limiting beliefs, they're called limiting beliefs. They are things which are kind of, they're not fact. They are opinions that have been given to you, or have you been influenced to believe them? And it's starting to stop. And it's the critical thinking that is so often tricky to access when we've spent most of our lives kind of being told what to do, or to have people in authority give us the guidelines and we then just operate within them, that we kind of almost get taught to stop asking why so much. And actually, when we really look at the influences behind some of the things that were roadblocks for me and the fears that I had, a lot of it was just down to societal opinion and conditioning, and because we just believe that that's just the way it's done, or that we felt like it was important, like we think it's important for children to be in a big group of kids, to be bullied, to be put under pressure, to have to do these tests and exams to build resilience and to help them to be ready for the tougher outer world, to know how to defend themselves, to be competitive, to like be ambitious, like that you kind of taught that school is there to serve a purpose. Like there's a lot of people out there who kind of say that it actually serves its purpose really well, but we don't realize what the purpose is until we really take a critical hard look at it, that it's not failing at all. It's doing exactly what it was supposed to do in the first stage, which was to obviously produce this sort of mass produced education.
Workforce, yeah.
And actually what we kind of look at as home educators, and this is something I've said to people recently as well, that we get called entitled a lot in our generation and below. My dad has said it to me before, that we're just entitled. And I'm just like, no, I don't believe that I should just get a handout of the perfect custom one-to-one tuition for my children. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that a government institution school is really ever going to be able to provide a fully customized one-to-one amazing education for every single child. I don't think that's possible, because actually the funds that would be required to make that happen are insane. And actually, I just believe that as someone I have a choice, and I have made my career work, and we've sacrificed a lot. We've had to tweak and change our finances a bazillion times to adjust to be able to afford this, as obviously the world imploded about a year into our home ed journey. That ultimately we have had to make a lot of changes and tweak things to be allowed to do this. And we are funding it. Like, we pay for childcare, we pay for all of their resources, we pay for all of their clubs and groups, like we pay all of our bills, we pay our mortgage. We are making this happen. And that is a big responsibility. Like I did sit there thinking the day, like even the fact that they would get free school lunches up until year 3, I think it is in this country, in which case you then have to start paying for them. Like even that, like we are still paying, and obviously they're going to put these breakfast clubs in place. So kids are even going to be able to go and get free breakfast. Like we are covering the food required for our children to be at home, which is also another cost. There are barriers here. There are things which actually you sit there and go, okay, but can we actually afford to do this? Like, we have got things covered right now that we don't have to worry about. And if we take it on as a responsibility, is this going to cost a lot of money? And I think the argument is that actually, whereas some families, the way they're spending is, if you actually looked at your budget and you looked at what you spent money on, you might find yourself thinking, well, I pay for morning clubs, after school clubs, various drop-offs and swimming and football and all of the other clubs and stuff they do around it. I'm then also sat with them doing an hour's worth of homework, reading, supporting them with their mathletics online, whatever it might be. So you're spending an hour with them a day anyway doing homework. You're taking them to football as well. You're making them some dinner. You're doing all the coaching and supporting of all of the struggles and worries or whatever they've had through their day, getting them organised and ready for the next day. You're packing lunches, you're sorting out their school uniforms, you're getting prepared for the next book day, you're getting prepared for the next trip, residential thing they're doing, right? You're doing all those things, okay? You are currently already doing the same level of workload that a home educator does, plus the school stuff. Okay, I just want to kind of emphasize this, right? Because I was actually talking to someone the other day who was saying about how much time a day they are spending doing reading, spellings, mathematics, etc. with their kids in the evenings, and that they do a club almost every night. And I'm just like, okay, so you are doing almost the same amount of parental input into their education that I am as a home educator. So I am able to cover, and they are progressing very well. So just to emphasize that as well, they're progressing very well in their reading, writing, English, their science, their maths, the core subjects, and many, many others that they have chosen themselves. Like, they are progressing beautifully in those subjects with roughly an hour of one-to-one each with me per day, plus probably a club or group or a play date or something we go and do as well, or some downtime, Minecraft, whatever they want to do. Those things are all contributing, but they get probably about 1 hour of focused education from me most days of the week, or their dad, and they are doing great. So that kind of fear, I guess, that roadblock that I had of like, this is going to take over my life, I'm not going to have any time to work or to move my body or to have friends or to see people or do things, whatever, that hasn't been the case for me at all, because ultimately the education bit doesn't actually take up that much time in a day. Obviously the care of them does, and the playing with them and supporting them and the taking them hither and thither and all the stuff, it does all take time. But then like I get to see my friends when we go to things. Like I get to socialize at least 3 or 4 times a week, seeing other parents who are all really well aligned with what we do. And sorry, I realize it's kind of jumping around a lot today, like flitting from point to point a little bit, but like this kind of concept of roadblocks, I really think it's important to recognize that there are things which feel like a roadblock, they feel massive, but actually they just kind of need reframing. We need to look at them slightly differently, because it's not the case that it's necessarily going to suddenly be 6 hours a day of you sat doing school with them at your dining room table.
Right.
Like that's not how it looks.
And that another roadblock that people might encounter as they make this decision is the fact of like, I have to sit and do all of this. I don't want to sit at the table for 6 hours a day.
No.
And I don't want to commit to this for the rest of our education lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if that's what we want. So I think that the thing to keep in mind, and sort of how I approached it, is like, listen, we can always send the kids back to school, or to school in this case.
Yeah.
You can always change your mind. You don't have to make that decision forever. Like
No.
it's not a one and done, right? You can reassess every year. And I think people always approach it that way too, when they're asking like, oh, so what are you going to do for high school? Oh, are you going to homeschool forever? Like, it's so interesting. People are very interested in that answer.
Yeah.
And I always reply to them like, hey, this is what works for us right now. And
Mm-hmm.
I am never going to say never,
Yeah.
right? Like, you just never know. So
No.
for now, this is what we're doing. But yeah, if my kid was like, hey, I really want to go to school and I want to go, and they really did want to go, I would absolutely say, okay, then
Yeah.
you can
Give it
go.
a try. Yeah. And I think this is
So
the thing. There's so many different things that can
yeah,
feel like they've got to be a cut and dry decision. Like this is so black and white, and
yeah,
it's not.
it's not.
It's an opportunity to try something differently, and to see how it works out for you. And if you've got a child that's really troubled, that's not doing very well in school, is really upset or really going through a difficult time, that can be really scary. The thought of changing the pace, because actually you feel like actually if we stop or interrupt this, could we ever go back? And maybe not. But the ultimate point is that the way it's working right now isn't working. And so this is another way to attempt kind of supporting them and seeing if it actually works out. And you might actually be really pleasantly surprised once you get into the rhythm of it. But we don't always know until we've actually experienced something whether or not it's going to work for us. And so you're never going to know unless you try. And it's that really kind of parenting. It feels like I'm like trying to get people to eat their vegetables. It's just like you never know until you give it a go, and you might actually find that you really love it, and actually it's a whole family ethos. It's a whole shift in terms of how your days look, and that in itself can feel really scary, because like it can also feel like, oh my god, all this time, like what would we do with our weeks? Like how would I still work? How would I still get all the housework done? Like, and all the rest of it. And I think it's again, it's just taking a pause to reframe it and have a think about that, really, and just to think about it, just to spend some time thinking about it, and not to feel overwhelmed by all the decisions as like they've got to have a decision about these things. Feel into it too. You don't have to have all the answers. Just start out, see how you go, and shift and adapt and change gradually.
Yeah,
And I think I
yeah.
was lucky that I started really without him having ever been to school. So I literally was starting from just, he was at nursery, he finished nursery 3 days a week. He was officially home with me full time. I was terrified. I thought, my goodness, like all 7 days a week, how am I going to manage? Like, this is going to be really intense. And the truth is that we started to go to some home ed meetups and started to meet some other people, met some friends. We got a couple of things in the diary every week that we just had as a nice rhythm. So we just carried on, like going to a few things in our weeks. Very quickly, massively overpacked our schedule. Like I had to like pare it
Yeah.
all right back again, and then do the same again, and repeat until we've now settled into quite a good rhythm. So a good few home days and a few out days, which is very important to us and our needs. But ultimately, like I was just starting from scratch, so I was able to kind of ease into it, knowing that we're at reception level. We can just observe him, notice what he knows. I downloaded the national curriculum for the reception year just to kind of give me a bit of a base of something to just have in the back of my mind. We did probably try and keep to that to some degree through his reception year, and not in like a really rigid form and like linear form, but just try to just keep those goals in mind. And that's gradually fallen away as he's gotten older, and I've started to see his ability to kind of develop in all of the different areas that are very important, like the core subjects that we obviously do worry about in this country, sort of literacy and maths, etc. Those are all progressing fine. So it's kind of like, okay, and now we tend to focus more on these really incredible, interesting projects that lead us all down these lovely routes. But ultimately, initially, we were quite unschooly. We were genuinely allowing him to do his own thing, play with his friends, climb trees, like carry on just picking up learning when he wanted to, like reading with him when he brought us a book and all the things. And actually, we have managed to maintain a reasonably positive experience of learning. We've had our moments. We definitely have had our issues. Put too much pressure on certain things or made things a bit boring or whatever. And I've had so many fears over time. Like when for example, reading was a real panic for me. He had a moment when I was just seeing so much resistance. He just didn't want to do it. He would have a massive strop every time I suggested it. We were trying to force it. We weren't getting anywhere. And so I know that people often will worry about this as well, actually being able to get them to participate in the learning, that maybe you have got a child who's really not coping well at school. They're not necessarily going to want to jump straight into any kind of formal learning with you at home, but you're still going to be really worried about them meeting these developmental goals because this is going to feel really important to you, because that's what we've had drilled into us as essential for certain age groups or whatever. And the truth is a lot of it isn't essential for that age group. Like reading, for example, fluent reading is actually expected anywhere between, I think it's 7 and 11. Somewhere in that window, you would expect that they would typically, that's the average, like between that window. And so it's a bit like when a child starts walking, you don't always expect them to all literally jump up at 18 months, get on those feet and start walking. Like it's a gradual process. Children up to 2.5, like will be like 2.5 will be getting to the point of walking well and confidently. So like it really depends on their developmental stages and what they prioritize as well, like what their brains choose to prioritize next as its developmental goals. And so leaning into what they are doing naturally and leaving some room for them to kind of reach that point more gradually is a massive leap of faith, and one that me and my husband had to sit and have a real conversation about, because I was sat in tears one evening being like, we're ruining it. We're absolutely ruining reading for him. He hates it. He never wants to do it. Like we're making it a chore. We need to back off. Like we need to trust. Like everyone's telling me to just trust the process, to let him be, and he will come to it when he's ready. And we're talking a freaking 5-year-old child right now. Like of course he's going to get to it when he's ready. But the panic was so real. Like the panic was right there and was making me so stressed every day. And ultimately we backed off entirely. We stopped forcing it. We stopped making a big thing of it. If he asked how something was, like if he pointed to a word and said, does that say ketchup? We'd say, yeah, it does. Or like, he was doing it on like backs of trucks. Does that say Tesco's? Does that whatever? Like he was working things out on his own secretly. And we'd noticed him like whispering to himself, looking at letters and things. And eventually we just kind of realized that he was doing it. He was just wanting to do it without us interfering. And obviously, yeah, he's what, 8.5 now, and has been reading fairly fluently, I'd say, since he was about 6.5, 7. So actually he reached it perfectly fine, on track, no stress at all. And that has been repeated in a number of different ways. Like his spelling recently, we don't do loads and loads and loads of spelling practice. We do the odd, fun spelling related game. And he reads a lot. And actually just recently, his spellings just seem to have clicked into place. It's really fascinating to watch that his brain is doing it all by itself with just very gentle intervention from us. And so it's really fascinating and fun to watch that way. But that trust is really, really scary, because we have been taught that you need a qualified teacher for children to be able to learn, or they won't learn to read. It's just not going to happen. And it's just not true. And I guess it's trying to have faith in yourself. And not a lot of people, I think, really had a lot of faith in me in those early stages. I mean, I definitely had some negative feedback from others and concerns as well. Like, I think concern I've grown to accept as the same level of concern that I had when I was like, is this actually legal? Like, am I allowed to do this? The same several questions, we all know them. Like, will they be socialized? Can they do qualifications? All the rest of it. We know what they're going to say. But that initially, that earworms you in it, that can become a huge roadblock, is that fear that's created by external fears, other people's worries, when they haven't done any research, they know nothing about it. And someone said to me once, you wouldn't ask advice from someone who's sat on their couch watching TV their entire life how to climb Mount Everest. You wouldn't speak to them. Like, you wouldn't ask them for their guidance. They would just go, oh gosh, no, that's scary. I wouldn't do that. That's a stupid idea. You're just going to die falling down a canyon.
Just going to die.
Yeah. Like, it's like, you're just going to die. Like, don't do it. You're going to freeze to death. You're going to fall down a canyon. It's stupid. Don't do it. Yeah. Much the same advice as I would give someone if they wanted to do that, to be perfectly honest. But as a home educator, we love chatting to people who are about to start, because we know that we also had all those same fears. And the only way that we were able to feel confident that this actually is a real thing, that thousands of people do it, that actually it's like older kids are doing great and they're developing goals beautifully and they go on to these incredible, really personalized, interesting careers, is by talking to people who have experience of home educated kids. And that's why, obviously, again, that this podcast exists, and why we do what we do, and to talk to people about it all the time, and why I'm always happy to chat to people who are just starting out, because honestly, we are dealing with such a lot of skepticism. And my family were concerned, my closest friends were concerned, my husband was concerned, everyone was concerned. And I had an absolute job on my hands. I had an instinct. I had a gut instinct. I wanted to do it. I'd done a bit of research. I'd started talking to a few people. I felt like this is worth the risk. I think it's a good idea. But everybody else thought I was insane. And truthfully, it was so awful those first few months, possibly the first year or two, when every conversation, it felt like I was already on high alert. Even now, to some degree, when I'm in a group of schoolies, so I say it in the nicest possible way, it's not a derogatory term, there's schoolie people who send their kids to school. If I'm in a group of people who send their kids to school, I have got that pit in my stomach, like any second now, they're going to ask me about his school, because that's what you do. You don't ask kids about anything else, really. Like, you ask them what school they go to, how are they liking school, what year are you going into, and all the rest of it.
What's your favorite subject?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite teacher?
Like, people don't know what to say to them.
Who's your favorite boss? No, and I'll say, what's your favorite meeting? Who's your favorite manager? Because it's a ridiculous question. Like, why? Why do we ask this of kids? Why don't we ask them, hey, what's really interesting to you right now? You know, what's your favorite thing to do outside?
Yeah.
What are you reading? What do you like to be read? Like, when your mom picks a book for you. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's so silly. And it's something we've been conditioned to do, right? Isn't it? People asked us, so we ask other people. It's like one of these learned behaviors that it comes from, like, it's so frustrating.
It is.
So, like, if we're at the grocery store and someone asks my kid that, I'll be like, what's your favorite item to scan? Like, because, I'm sorry, are we not asking ridiculous questions? Like, I have no patience for this madness anymore. Like, I just cannot. I cannot. Unless it is someone who works with my husband, I will not, like, stir the pot there. But if you are a random stranger asking my kid about school, I'm going to have something to say about it.
I must admit, we had quite a funny passive-aggressive conversation around this the other day, when it was a couple of years ago. A little old lady said to me as we were getting to the checkout, are they sick? Obviously, this was just post-COVID time, so I can kind of get it. But like, she's like, are they sick? And I'm just like, no. Why? Forgetting that it was like a Wednesday afternoon, and that obviously they would be in school. And so like I just completely didn't twig what she was getting at. And she was like, you shouldn't bring them to a supermarket if they're off school sick. And I'm just like, oh, no, they're home educated. Don't worry, they're not sick. They're fine. And she was genuinely concerned. But the person I was talking to would have been like, oh my goodness, that kind of like little cruel bit inside of me would have just like gone, no, we've got this horrible cough right now. And just like, we just needed to get some food in. Like, she goes, I'll just be like, what's it to you? Why is it your business? But actually, like, fair enough, post-COVID, I understand the reason why. But like, you do get the odd comment, and like, she obviously then started, oh, you home educate, oh, well, good for you. I wonder, like, and they start asking you all these questions, and you do get into the whole, again, we've had this conversation on other episodes before, but just that kind of like, oh, I don't want to have this conversation again. I literally feel like I'm defending this decision every time I move. But it is almost like anything, really. A friend of mine recently was like, oh, well, actually, I'm sober now. Like, as you can see, the fear she had, like, I just need to like get this out. Like, I'm at a party. I need to just say, yeah, well, I'm in the program. I've gone sober.
Right.
I'm not drinking anymore. And I was like, oh, fair enough. Like, good for you. And I was like, did you want to talk about it? Or did you just need to just state that so that you can just feel like you've got the elephant in the room out on the table? You don't owe me anything. Like, you don't need to explain to me your life choices or what you're doing right now. Good for you. Like, I'm pleased for you if it's making you happier and you're feeling better for it. But yeah, we don't have to get into it. So the point is that, I guess, these kind of fears and defensiveness that we build around that early stage, when we are being faced with conversations with people who are choosing different routes for their families, is to remember that those people who choose those routes or are deciding to persevere with something or whatever, or who do see that school is like super, super important, they wouldn't ever take their kids out and whatever, they don't actually understand home education typically. They don't actually understand how involved the parents are, how much we care about our kids' outcomes, and how much you're going to fight for them. And I think sometimes they think that you're trying to take an easy way out, or you're giving up, or you're whatever, and it couldn't be any further from the truth. And I think that ultimately you have to kind of take their fears from their uneducated position on it with a pinch of salt, that all they have got in their heads is the societal conditioned message of what home education is, and it isn't that. So if you can take a pause to try and remember that you are coming at this decision from an instinctual place, possibly, or a research place, or an educated place, or a space where you've actually gone and spoken to some home educators, you've listened to this podcast, you've read blogs, you've read books, you are feeling as ready as you can be to take the leap and to give it a try, that the niggles and fears that you are having a lot of the time are going to be the opinions of people who just do not understand what home education or just alternative education styles looks like. All they've got in their head is school and what that trajectory looks like. And they haven't got the headspace or the inclination or the respect sometimes to actually bother to think about another possible way of doing things. And ultimately, you are going to be faced with family, friends, whatever earworming you. You're probably going to be worried with the little niggling messages in the back of your head about the fact that, oh, I'm never going to have any time to myself, or I'm never going to be able to have a career, or I'm never going to be able to exercise, or when am I going to get time to clean the house? And the truth is, the kids will help you to clean the house, because as a home educated child, they will be experiencing what family life looks like. So they should hopefully pick up on what needs to be done in the house and will actually be involved with it, instead of seeing it as a completely separate entity or something they have to do when told. Don't get me wrong, this is still a challenge, obviously.
Just like always.
Yes, and education is still going to be a challenge at times. Like, you are going to bang your head against a brick wall sometimes. You aren't always going to feel like you can inspire them. Yes, careers do need to be slightly more flexible. You might have to find a way to work around alternating when you're with the kids with your husband or partner. You might also need to work from home or to flex your business to be kind of like side hustly. You might need to be part-time. You may need to give up work entirely, depending on your family situation. Like, there are options for sure for childcare, childminders, drop-offs, etc. But the point is that whatever roadblock you are coming up against right now, and for sure, some are going to be extremely difficult to navigate and to work your way around, is to just think really critically of why you believe that that is something that should stop you from home educating. Who is it that's actually influencing you to believe that? And are those influences people who know better than you? Are they people who know your kid better? Are they people who know your life better? Are they actually even people who know education or psychology or child development better? And trust me when I say that most government agencies and the school system as it stands right now are not necessarily going to be the most learned when it comes to child psychology or development. So, like, just to really emphasize that, we think they should be, and they probably should. Let's be honest. Yeah. They should. But they are
should
not.
have that, yeah.
So you are allowed to be the king or queen of your own life and decide what makes sense for you and your family. You can do your own learning. You can do your own research and reassurance, and you can make your own decisions. And that sounds so scary sometimes, but ultimately, whatever reason you are deciding to home educate right now, and whatever roadblocks are sitting in front of you making you question that, chances are, with a little bit of flexibility, adaptation, research, support, you can actually work your way around a lot of those. And that some of them aren't even real anyway, and aren't actually ones that you need to be worried about, which you'll only figure out once you've done it for a year or two and you realize that it's not a thing. Like, some of these things, they're just going to sit there as a big scary elephant in the room until one day it's just gone and you don't even know where it went. So if we haven't touched on something which is a roadblock for you right now, and you are sitting there going, we haven't mentioned this, and actually, is that something I do need to be worried about then? Just know that us and our ramblings is not always a fully comprehensive thought process. We both often will sit here after a session being like, oh, I didn't mention this, or we could have talked about that as well, or whatever. Yeah. So if we have missed something that you are worried about, please do remember that I am a qualified mindset coach. I work with families who are going through this transition process. I offer very affordable options as well, that if you needed to just have someone in your pocket who you can speak to a little bit about this, then please do reach out. It is an option there for you always. And yeah, hopefully, though, one of our other episodes will cover it if this episode hasn't. So let us know, drop me a message and say, but I'm scared about this. And I can hopefully pinpoint you one that you should go listen to that might help. So anyway, hopefully that's been helpful. Any final thoughts, Ashley, or are you good too?
I had something and now I've forgotten about it. So if I think of it, I'll add it to our Instagram.
Okay, guys. Well, have a lovely week. And obviously, we'll see you again next Sunday. Take care.
Take care. You've been listening to the Big Home Ed Conversations podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Big Home Ed Podcast for updates. We'll be back again next week for another episode, but don't forget to check out the special summer episodes, Get Your Head Straight to Home Ed. See you soon.